All right, so I want to talk about the Pedro Pascal casting for Fantastic Four. And it's starting a stupid argument on the goddamn internet. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people taking little bits of information and deciding that they know everything. They know how it all works. Do I know everything? No. But I know how to do the littlest ounce of research and decide if what they're saying has any grain of salt of truth. So Pedro Pascal and the rest of the Fantastic Four have been cast. Most of these people in these roles are pretty big nobodies. They've got some minor roles in some successful shows, like the guy that is on that is going to be playing Ben Grimm. He is on The Bear. That's great. The other guy was on as one of the minor characters within Stranger Things, and I have no idea what the woman is in. But everyone wants to freak out about Pedro Pascal's casting as Reed Richards. Now, first off, I've never understood this weird fandom of we need to, at all times, we need to get actors who look exactly and act exactly like the role. These people don't seem to understand that makeup and acting are skills that we can do to make an individual look the appropriate role. So I started poking the bear. It's what I love to do. I poke the bear because I get bored sitting in this basement with my anime statues, just sitting around playing video games. I like to poke the bear occasionally. So I put out, I'm on board with Pedro Pascal's casting as Reed Richards. I think he can act the role. He can do it. If you've watched what he's been in, he can shift his character dynamics very drastically. The character he plays in Last of Us is kind of similar to Mandalorian, but the unbearable weight of talent or whatever it is with him and Nick Cage, completely different character. His Narcos character, completely different character. His Game of Thrones character, kind of like his Mandalorian character. But what I'm saying is the man can act. The man can cook and create a Reed Richards that I would be behind. But of course, everyone is arguing that he has to look the part. Look the part. And I'm like, I don't get it. So I pulled up an image of Tony Stark from the 90s. Those of you who think Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., and the comic books and video games all look like that now, that is not what Tony Stark looked like before he was cast. Tony Stark, I found an image that made him look like Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck is like a 1970s heartthrob movie guy. Like, Tony Stark did not look like Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. came in, and then Tony Stark changed to look like him. Now, Reed Richards will be a little bit harder because we know him very well, and he's been around, and we're in the middle of the MCU as opposed to it starting up. I don't disagree with that. And my biggest argument against Pedro Pascal's casting is that, hey, this man, maybe we don't need the hottest actor in Hollywood right now. Like, he is in everything. Ever since he finally kind of got into his groove, he has accepted every role. I feel like every show and movie I watch has Pedro Pascal in it lately. So maybe get some unknown that we can grow on screen with. That's what I liked about the MCU back in the beginning. Who was Chris Evans? I'm not 100% sure until he was Captain America. Robert Downey Jr., I saw some movies when I was a kid, but I didn't really know who he was until he was Iron Man. So I'm not against the idea of getting a no-name actor and having them do the role. But this started a follow-up argument. And this pisses me off because these people are idiots. And I started calling them out on Twitter, and I called them morons, and I attached a GIF that called them morons, and it got removed because apparently the people that want to fight on Twitter have soft skin and can't handle being called morons. So the argument is Disney has inclusion standards. You're right. They do. And there's no denying that. Are there decisions handled by the Marvel departments and the Disney departments that are very much agenda focused? Yes. I've never publicly stated if I agree or disagree with that argument. I'm doing it now. Yes. I've always thought that does happen. Is it inherently bad? No. You can make it very bad very quick depending on your decision. But if the person can act, fine. So in 2020, ABC leaked the inclusion standards. It basically stated that 50% of the cast had to be a minority group, that they had to consider casting of a minority group, all of this stuff. Is this real? Yes. But here's the funny part. Everyone right now, on the side of woke arguments, is now using this as ammo. Why are they using this as ammo in February 2024 when this came out in 2020? Oh, because Elon Musk retweeted it recently. Right. So this document has existed publicly since 2020 when ABC let it leak that Disney had official inclusion standards. But Elon Musk retweeted it, so now it's ammo for every red pill swallowing moron who wants to just listen to what the internet says and do zero research. Okay, so of course, me arguing Pedro Pascal's casting drew out these morons. These morons decided to argue with me, and I loved this. I loved this because they would argue with me that Pedro Pascal has only been hired as an inclusion hire. It's an agenda that Disney is pushing, and that's the only reason he exists. And almost every one of them attached this image like the proof is in the pudding. It's the Constitution. This is proof. I'm right, Benny, and you're wrong. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Okay, the document is real. Got it. We're all on board with that. We agreed. The document is real. I did extra research. I've always known about this. I've never saw if it was real. It is real. It leaked from ABC. Got it. But the argument is, and when I responded to someone that is Pedro freaking Pascal, one of the most in-demand actors in Hollywood right now, the response was, oh, so you're going to ignore the document and just because it follows your political agenda. And I responded with, you're a moron. You're ignoring blatantly obvious facts for your political agenda. Pedro Pascal is one of the most in-demand actors in Hollywood right now. Pedro Pascal has been in Game of Thrones, Last of Us, Mandalorian. He's been in Narcos. He's been an unbearable weight of talent on blah, blah, blah. He's been in countless movies. And if you look at his current release calendar, he has like 4 movies coming out and 3 shows. Okay? The man is one of the most in-demand actors in Hollywood. What do I think happened with Disney? I think Disney went, hey, we already got Pedro Pascal under a Mandalorian contract. Why don't we see if he's available to be one of the characters in the Fantastic Four? Twofold. One of the most in-demand actors in Hollywood right now. And secondly, he'll fill the boxes on our inclusion standards sheet. I don't think that he was hired as a diversity hire. And what pisses me off about that is when you go in with that argument that Pedro freaking Pascal was hired as a diversity hire, you're discounting everything Pedro Pascal has done to get to where he is in Hollywood. That man has been acting since 2010, 2011, and he has been great in 90% of his roles, and he has cemented himself in geek culture by doing some of the biggest properties in geek history in the last 5 years. Game of Thrones, Last of Us, and Mandalorian. So by coming in and being like, well, this document exists, and that means that Pedro Pascal's a diversity hire, you're discounting all of that. Because my honest opinion is he was hired because they had him in their back pocket already. He's hugely in demand in Hollywood, and they wanted to stunt cast somebody in the Fantastic Four. Why would they want to stunt cast somebody in the Fantastic Four? Well, that's simple. No one cares about the Fantastic Four. Look at the sales of the comics. Look at the sales of the movies. Back even when X-Men was doing well, Fantastic Four did okay. No one cares about the Fantastic Four. They can't sell a comic to save their lives. When Fox owned the rights to the Fantastic Four, Marvel decided to stop publishing X-Men and Fantastic Four properties. You know what everyone got mad about? X-Men. You know what no one gave really any about? Fantastic Four. Hardcore Marvel fans were sad about that and they wanted to know where it was, but that doesn't mean the mass majority wanted to know what was going on with the Fantastic Four. The MCU has had a terrible last 3 years. So why wouldn't you stunt cast one of the most in-demand actors in Hollywood who has cemented himself in geek and nerd culture to be your Mr. Fantastic and have him on your roster? One, you've stunt cast. People are going to go see Pedro Pascal, even whatever movie he's in. He's kind of in that position right now where he's like The Rock or Tom Cruise. If they're in a movie, you might go see it for them as opposed to seeing the movie. Do you know how many John Hamm movies I have seen that make no goddamn sense, but I want to see John Hamm in a movie? I watch them all because they're all these quirky little nobody movies that nobody's heard of. but I'll watch it because John Hamm is in it. That's what they're doing with Pedro Pascal. Fantastic Four, one of the hardest properties at Marvel to sell, needs some kind of push. It needs an A-list actor that is in high demand. It needs a Pedro Pascal. That's who they hired. And before everyone jumps in, because I already had people being like, well, they had John Krasinski. Why don't they bring him back? You're on the internet 24/7, apparently, Mr. Wants to argue with me. How do you not know John Krasinski doesn't want to do the role? That's why he agreed to the Easter egg role. So he could have some fun with it, give the fans what they want, and move on to his next brilliant project like The Quiet Place. What I'm getting at is stunt casting in the MCU is not new. They did it for Benedict Cumberbatch to play Doctor Strange to get you to care about Doctor Strange. You know whose comics and properties still can't sell? Doctor Strange. So why would they make a risk with Fantastic Four? They're not going to. They get 3 more obscure actors and they get one big stunt cast, and that's Pedro Pascal, who is in demand in Hollywood. And I won't lie, the inclusion standard sheet is supposedly real. There's no reason to think it isn't. So why wouldn't they hire this man who fills the boxes so they can get that sheet off the table? And he's also in some of the hottest properties right now. He's the guy to hire for this. Why not? Unless John Krasinski suddenly becomes available and wants to do the role. I mean, I would be on board if he took it. You gave us the tease. Give us the man. I would be all for that. That's fine. Just get me him. But anyway, that's what I wanted to rant about Pedro Pascal. That is the rant about casting people who look like the actors. They don't always have to look like they're actors. They don't have to do that. They don't have to be that. We've proven that time and time again. Peter Quill did not look like the guy who plays him. He didn't look like him at first. Tony Stark didn't look like him at first. Chris Evans kind of looked like Captain America. That was a pretty good casting in terms of like a visual appearance. I'll give you that. But the Hulk literally changed his appearance because we had Edward Norton and then Mark Ruffalo. Come on. Come on. And you know what neither one of them looks like? Bruce Banner from the comics. They don't. Thor looks really good, though. Chris Hemsworth was really good casting. Anyway, that's today's ranty video. I don't know if it's going to become a real video or not, but at least I got to vent a little to my friends here on Twitch. I hope you guys enjoyed.